Hey, good morning. It's Edna Keep here live with Mindset Monday. Today our topic is the path of least resistance. And remember, if you need my help building your real estate portfolio, you need some help with your mindset, reach out to me at 90days-to5k.com. So what is the path of least resistance? Like I've mentioned to a few of you before, I study Esther Hicks a lot. I listen to a video of hers at least every day, and this is something that she talks about a lot. Is going the way of the path of least resistance, because if we are resisting something, it's like telling the universe we're not ready for it or we don't want it. That could be money, that could be your next piece of real estate that you're buying. So if you're not getting where you want to get when it comes to your goals, think about what you're resisting. Are you resisting the work that might be involved? Are you resisting the need to be able to qualify for a mortgage if you're doing a house? Are you resisting the need to look for investors if you want to buy a multifamily? Different stuff like that. Like, what are you resisting? And then start taking the path of least resistance. And this is where your inspired actions come in, right? So if you're resisting making the call to the investor, ask yourself why. Do I know enough? Do I feel uncomfortable? Why am I not making that call? You might have potentially met somebody who's interested, you know it already, but you're not making the call. You're not setting up the coffee appointment. What's your resistance there? Is it maybe that you think if you own that property, it's going to be too much work for you? Is it that you don't feel like you know enough, that you might make a mistake? Is it that you don't know what to say to them? All that kind of stuff is learnable. It's definitely learnable. So where does the path of least resistance come in? Well, what can you do? Okay, so maybe making outward calls to find that investor is not your best thing to do. Maybe getting people to come to you is your path of least resistance. So just think about that for a second. How does it feel if someone reached out to you and said, hey, Edna, I want to know more about that real estate property that you talked about yesterday. Is that easier than, and for you to, of course, just start talking about it, or is it easier to phone somebody and say, hey, can I tell you about the rental property that I'm looking at buying? A lot of people say it's just easier if people are reaching out to them. So where's your path of least resistance? What can you do? Well, one of the things that I suggest quite frequently to my videos is share the education that you're learning with potential people. It doesn't have, the onus doesn't 100% have to be on you. You can talk about what you're learning as you go, so I'm encouraging some of my students to do videos on a regular basis. And one of the first things that comes up is, I just want to, kind of feels like I'm just talking to myself. I felt like that when I started too. I found it difficult to just get onto the camera and just start talking. But practice takes that fear away. Practice takes that unknowingness away. After a while, you just get to know people are watching. You get that through either the live people on the feed. Thanks, TJ, for being on. But you also get it when, once your video is posted, you'll see that different people have viewed it. So you know that your message is getting out there. And even though those people may not talk to you, they may not say anything on the live call, they may not even leave a comment after, they are listening to you. And I know that for a fact because I've had so many people reach out to me and say, Edna, I've been following you for 2 or 3 years and I've never heard their name before, never seen their name before, because I'm usually very good with that. If I've seen a name before, it rings a bell, and there's just times when I don't. So people are watching, people are listening. people are wanting to know. So maybe that's your path of least resistance. Maybe doing videos is not your path of least resistance, because you get on here and you worry about does my hair look? Is my makeup okay? Do I have too much of a beard? Whatever your thing is. I highly recommend, stop focusing on yourself. Take the focus off yourself and think about, how you felt when you learned what you're going to share with them. I know when we were first learning, man, it just felt like we were getting hit with a fire hose. There was so much information that not all of it would stick, but certain things would. And one of the biggest keys for us at the time was talking about those things that we learned, either with fellow students or people, even just friends and acquaintances who we'd get into a conversation with. They'd say, well, what are you excited about? What are you doing now? And we'd start telling them. And it was all, at the beginning, it was just all about what we were learning. It wasn't that we were trying to make them investors with us. We weren't even thinking that way. It was just, we were excited about what we were learning, and we thought it was great stuff that we were learning, so we were wanting to share. So how can you share? That could be having coffee with somebody. Is that easy for you? Could be writing a newsletter. Some people absolutely love to write. And so they write it, maybe in a post on Facebook or a newsletter out to people that are following them. Maybe another path of least resistance might be, going and joining a Facebook group. And when questions come up that you can answer, just answer them. Don't wait for the guru, whoever is the leader of the Facebook group, to get on. But answer them. If you've got fellow students in a group, answer a question that you already know the answer to. And you can always put, this is what I learned, or this is what I recently learned, or this is what I found. Get it, because other people will make comments too, and their comments might be different than yours. And it doesn't matter. If people get more ways of looking at the same thing, it's actually very, very helpful to them. So just think about that. I get different people that reach out and they'll go, is this mortgage broker better than another? And I might just say, well, hey, this is why I like this mortgage broker. It's not anything against the other one. I might not even know the other one. So you're not doing anything wrong. You're not saying anything wrong. But those are little helpful things that you can share with people. So what is your path of least resistance? What could you do today that would take you closer to your goal of finding the property? Maybe your path of least resistance is just to analyze and analyze and analyze and analyze till the cows come home. And you know what? That's okay too, because one of these days you're going to hit across that property that you're going to say to yourself, you know what? I would buy this property even if I had to mortgage my own house, even if I had to sell my truck, even if I had to ask my dad, whatever. And when you find that property, you know what? You'll probably be able to find some investors that would be as excited about it as you. So whatever your path of least resistance is, do it. And then do it on a consistent basis. Life is not meant to be hard. That whole adage about work hard, you'll eventually, win out the other side. I don't believe that. There are so many of our ancestors that worked extremely hard. My parents were examples of that. Heck, they had 8 kids. And then they were awesome parents. First of all, how do you have 8 kids and still be an awesome parent? I'm sure I would pull out all my hair and be in a mental institution. I've only got 3, and sometimes they drive me crazy. So I think 8, I'm sure he would have been in a mental institution. But they you know what? They did what they could do. And my dad was a hard worker. He was a short guy, but man, he had muscles. And the reason he had muscles is because he never lifted a weight per se in his life. He worked hard. He was a hard worker. And you know what? We did well. We never felt like we were lacking for anything. We weren't wealthy or anything, but, we didn't feel like we were lacking. So, in that day and age, that's how most people lived. There was a few wealthy people out there. So, think about that. A lot of our limiting beliefs comes on how we were raised. And if we are raised to think that hard work was the only way, then, you know, and I actually struggle with this for years, but sitting to meditate, I just could not wrap my head around it. It was like, that's not working hard. That's way too easy. That's just being lazy. That's just, how can anything be happening when you're just sitting there? But every guru, every successful person I've listened to in the last, 20 years says you have to bring on a meditation practice. And you know, it wasn't till I started practicing it on a consistent basis that I could really see why. And to start to make something a habit that I was resisting, first of all, was tough. It was like I'd do it a day here and a day there, maybe even a week or maybe even a month, and then it would just fall off. And oh my gosh, I can tell you now, these last couple years, I've been so consistent on meditating that, boy, I miss it if I ever don't. And now I just can't even imagine my day without it. But I used to resist it like crazy, and so I never did it. And my comment to myself was, oh gosh, I just can't sit still that long, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, what are some things you're saying to yourself that you can feel the resistance coming, and how can you change that? How can you make it something that's easy for you to do? Something about that's easy to do. Just in having a conversation with one of my students this morning in laser coaching, she was saying, and I'm just not finding any properties in my area. You know, nothing's coming up for sale there, and when they are, it doesn't fit, it doesn't work. And, you know, so just came up with a suggestion, maybe put it on Facebook and you do some outgoing marketing and see if you can get some people to reach out to you. You know, people who might reach out to her, I was saying, is, you know, maybe a family member passed away and the rest of the family members are in Vancouver or Toronto or wherever, and it's hard for them to get there to think about cleaning up that property and putting away all, you know, mom and dad's stuff and all that kind of stuff, and they don't, you know, maybe have anything they want to keep anyway, and you know, maybe you could go in and say, you know, I'll clean it up for you. I'll package stuff that I think might be important. I'll discard stuff that I know you don't want. I'll take a picture and send it to you and say, hey, do you want to keep this, or do you want me to get rid of it, or send it to Goodwill, or, you know, whatever. And then maybe they pick you just because you're their easiest solution. Maybe not the one that makes them the most money. Some people are averse to hiring a realtor, like they start thinking of the money they have to pay instead of the money they'll make. So how can you make it easy for people? Will make it easier for you. So think about that this week. Ponder on it, journal it. Those are the things that are going to make the difference in your life. If you follow the path of least resistance for you, you'll get places. If you keep thinking, oh, let's say, for example, you decide you want to run a marathon and it's going to be a 5-mile marathon. And you think that I got to get out there and run 5 miles. You'll never run 5 miles. But could you get out and start going for a walk, or maybe a quick jog, or, you know, like something can help you. Something small can take you to the next step. And that's the part that I'm challenging you to do this week. When you're building your real estate portfolio and it's not coming together the way you want it to, think about what you're resisting and just do something that's easy. Do something that's easy, whatever that happens to be. Have a conversation with somebody, write an article, even just share an article that makes sense with your comment, because I always say if you're going to share an article, you should say why it's important to you. You know, I've heard interest rates are going down. Maybe you could share that with people. And, you know, maybe people that are looking at renewing their mortgage early, maybe they'll think twice about renewing early. Like, there's always little nuggets that people can take away from you. So those are some good things. Oh, hey, I got a question here. Awesome. Joanne says, what was the breakthrough that helped you meditate regularly? I love my meditation, but how do you create it as let me see if I can read the rest here. Was it an aha moment or a habit? I'm finding it difficult with my job and 3 kids. You know, Joanne, that is a really, really good question. How I started is I had read and heard about a program that you do have to purchase, unfortunately. Actually, they have some free stuff on there, but I ended up purchasing it, called HoloSync. And I think I mentioned this at the Mindset Retreat when you were there. And they actually had protocol to follow. They gave you instructions, and then they had different levels that you could go to. And so the basic level you start out, I think, was called the dive. And then I can't remember even what the second one was. But I would just start, I would fall asleep with my headphones on listening. That was my only meditation I got. And one of the things I liked about this program, loved about this program, was it said again and again, even if you fall asleep, it is working. And you know what? I noticed it was working because I was less stressed. I could just handle, and I don't really consider myself a stressed person because I just handle stress, like every once in a while I'll fly off the handle and get worked up and stuff like that, and usually over the stupidest things. But I handle stress well. I can deal with, multi-million-dollar mortgages and properties, and it's like a natural walk in the park for me. Dealing with $100 bill where somebody, charged me too much or sent the bill to the wrong address and wondering why I'm not paying it, different stuff like that stresses me out, And so I found that meditation, just listening, and how long does it take you to fall asleep? 5, 10, 15 minutes? That was working for me. So when that was working, that's when I started taking it to the next level, because I kept reading that, falling asleep to meditating is not ideal. It's not your perfect situation. And when I seen what a difference it made for me, even though every meditation I ever did led me to falling asleep, I knew that I had to incorporate it more. And what I do now is I get up at a certain time, I make my coffee, and I sit and meditate. And I'm still kind of dozy, half asleep, so that's kind of nice. And they say that that's the best time to meditate, when you're still kind of dozy and half asleep. So if you can get yourself up a little bit earlier, that was the thing that really made it consistent. And then track it. I track mine. I'm going to show you here. So I have a graph paper that I keep on my desk every day. And things that I'm wanting to incorporate into my life, I check them off. Meditation, taking my supplements because I don't always remember to do that, exercising. I'm really good at going to the gym because I book my personal trainer twice a week, but I'm not so good at, getting that extra walk in. So, I write it down and it feels like check mark, did it, walked 5 times this week or something like that. So, monitoring it is a big thing so that you even pay attention, because sometimes we're meditating on a regular basis, but we're forgetting to remind ourselves that we did. And and I look back and I see, I meditated 12 days in a row. That's cool to me. I just think, wow, that's awesome. Let's see how long I can keep this streak running. So different little things like that I use to motivate myself. So hopefully that helped, Joanne. Hopefully it helped answer your question, because meditation I highly recommend for everybody. And if you can only do it as you fall asleep, I don't care. I've read many, many times that doesn't work, but it absolutely worked for me. And it was what got me started and what got me excited about meditating on a regular basis. So, and I think meditating could very easily be a path of least resistance if you let it be. Like, how hard is it? And it used to be really hard for me, so I can say this, to just sit and not think for 5 minutes, There's some breathing exercises you can do to help you do that. But all that kind of stuff is a path of least resistance. Or for me, anyway, now, I resisted it for a long time. But sometimes that with which you resist for a long time is just the thing that you need. So write that down, think about it, and let me know. Let me know how it goes for you. I love hearing success stories on stuff like that. So remember, again, if you need my help building your real estate portfolio, reach out to me at 90days to 5k.com. Take care and have a really, really good week. Bye for now.